And we also seen T-Mobile, attacked as well. 48 million users are compromised in that part as well. These are the one of the bigger attack vectors. And for me, the most high profile and which has a much more bigger impact is the Equifax attack. About 143 million American SSN numbers was exposed in this attack. It is roughly about half of the America's population social security number was disclosed. This is a very major attack, and this as attack has a lot of impact on real time. It has led to a lot of identity theft. People are still suffering because of this, and they are paying loans for loans that have not been taken, and their identities have been stolen. People have taken borrowed money in their name, and a lot of things has happened out here. Right. The far impact, even the number of users, right, 143 million compared to LinkedIn 700 million may be less. The impact is quite high out here, right? So now, so I'm talking about a lot of things out here. So what are those things? What is an event? What is an incident? What is a breach? Right. So an event is an attempt to bypass the security. There are millions of events per second. An incident is an event bypassed single level of security but did not access any information. And a breach is about one or more security levels or modified, deleted, or extracted. So for instance, you can take it up in a simple terms, if you parked your car somewhere outside, right, someone will try to come and try to open the door and things like that. They're trying to get inside the car and things. That will be called an event. There is an attempt made. There is an attempt made to do that process, but it was not unsuccessful. They could not do anything. There is no damage done or anything. That is an event. So a lot of things when a web application we talk about, a lot of people do, and the most highly used websites and things and all like Amazon, Facebook, and probably even you might have tried to, a lot of people, let's say you have a Facebook account, you have in friends in Facebook link, that, but if you try to enter the password multiple times to get into that, that is also constitutes an attack, right? But that is an event that you have not compromised it or anything. There's no data lost or anything, and there is no damage done as well, right? Similarly, in an incident is something which goes beyond an event, meaning there is a next level breach that is happened out there. They're able to do compromise some kind of an data is not, some kind of a security measure is compromised, but there is no data loss here. So for instance, if you take the same analogy of carjacking or people stealing the car, they might have opened the door of the car, but they could not start the car and move and steal the car. And that is called as an incident. Someone trying to bypass your firewall or bypass your web application firewall or any other security mechanism, but nothing was done, nothing was lost. There was an event was controlled in time, and they took care of the event in time, and the hacker was not successful. That is what we call as an incident. And breach is where you lose the data. Right? There was an event, they need to escalated to incident, and once he got inside and they was able to capture the data or able to compromise the device and do whatever the malicious activity, that is what is called a breach. So in simple terms, someone was able to steal your car. That is what is a breach of security is going to be there. Someone was able to steal your data. That is what cybersecurity breach is about, right? So these are the different things. We should always make sure, the security profile should not, event will always be there, but it should never escalate to an incident or a breach, right? So what are the major attack vectors? What are the different types and things that your system is seeing out there on that? So there are different types of attacks, right? I'm talking about, IoT devices being hacked, your car, automobiles are hacked, a lot of things are more computer based and things and all. There are cases where people have compromised Tesla cars and things like that, where they're able to put brakes on the car or switch off the engine remotely without the driver interference. Those are things as possible out there. There are different types of attacks out there. but what are the major attacks? What we see on that, which is more important for us to study. The first main thing is basic web application attack. There are a lot of websites, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of small companies to big companies all have their websites, and attacking this website constitutes about 90% of it. Right? And the second part is going to be denial of service attack. Denial of service attack, predominantly there is nothing, it is overwhelming someone come laptop, service. You know, let's say there is an web application or any website. It deals about 1 million users on a day, and that is the normal utilization and things like that. But all of a sudden, what happens about 20 million or 30 million people start accessing that website? It is going to crash because it cannot handle so much data or handle so much of traffic out there. That is the normal behavior. That is a system level crash out there. But what if that extra traffic is created intentionally to crash? And that is what is called as a denial of service attack. And there have been many cases. In US, there was a particular IP camera that was used for recording, having a CCTV camera in your garages, and it was connected to a Wi-Fi router, and you can stream it. You can view that what is happening in your garage in your mobile because it was a cloud-based service. This particular camera had a security vulnerability. What attackers did was they got hold of about 10 million cameras all over US that they have sold that many products out there. And they were able to use this machine IP cameras to do an attack on a very large company, right? So that was a distributed denial of service attack. So overwhelming traffic from 10 million devices going into a single device to a single server to overwhelm them. And that is what happened out. Finally, it is the system intrusion. These are complex attack, malware and hacking an objective intrusion and deploying ransomware and things like that. Right. So here basically it deals about an infrastructure attack. So if you're getting in malware or you're getting an infected virus infected in your device, it will be taken as system intrusion. And viruses play a major role in compromising servers as well. And we have seen this is a bigger problem when we test, there are test cases to check whether a server can be vulnerable to malwares as well. And we'll see a lot of customers are not prepared for this. And they are improving. They're moving towards how do we make it much more secure against this as well. Right. So ransomwares, you might have heard WannaCry, just compromise it, encrypts everything, and it is going to prevent actual users from seeing the data, and it will ask you for a ransom to see if you get your data back. And we have seen the pattern of incidents, right? What are the types we see? A lot of times, how many times there is an attack, and we see denial of service is something which is more common, and a web application is on the system intrusion is also there. Web application is going down nowadays because there is so much security that has been in place to make sure the attack is going to place out there, right? And the privilege misuse and miscellaneous and everything, social engineering is basically about how do you phishing mails. Someone sends you an email and click on this link, you have won a lottery or things like that. Those are things under that come under social engineering. You have always seen there's a pattern is going up and down. Right. In recent times, we have seen, but the breaches, right? The breaches we always see is the web application and the system intrusion are more higher these days. And predominantly when the system intrusion, you can see that increase the trajectory in system intrusion, it is going up as the cloud adaptation from the industry is increased. The more companies are moving towards cloud and more intrusion in system level hacks are happening much more common. And we also are seeing more and more web applications remain quite constant. And recent times, your social engineering has come down mainly because your email servers are able to filter out spam mails, filter out malicious emails and things like that. That is totally possible. That is the reason why there is a sudden decrease in that one, right? The AI being used in filtering messages by your for that. So other things and all, we'll talk about miscellaneous privilege misuse and things and all. Those are things that will be there always. There's a that is happening on the administrative level, because you may be creating an ID that may be useful to access a particular data, but when that employee is removed, people forget to remove that access rights as well. So that is what privilege misuse basically deals about. And miscellaneous error is how do you, you know, application level errors that is causing to data leakage and things like that. So as you can see here, most something which has been very common is going to be web application, and the system intrusion basically talks about cloud pen testing. The cloud devices are getting hacked quite constantly these days, and nowadays cloud providers are getting very intelligent. They don't allow you to run certain services in a certain way. You have to have a very secure environment, unless until without that they are not going to allow you to run those things as well, right? So but even after that, this is basically due to not updation of your systems in time. That's the main reason for that, right? So now we are seeing
So
security
Karthik,
breaches.
I have a
Yes,
sorry to
yes,
interrupt, guys.
yes,
It should be for everyone. It should be a interactive session. So if you have any question, any doubt, anything wants to discuss, feel free to ask.
yes,
Uh, so it will help to other to grab the stuff, because we can understand in this discussion we do have some in-field experts who are right now working some cybersecurity projects and they have prior experience, and few are very new in this domain. So if you share your experience or your question or your doubts, in the long term it will help others as well. So do
yes,
not hesitate
exactly.
to share the question or ask the question.
Yes, that's true.
Do you have any
And if
question?
you
Yeah, please go ahead.
Manu, just stop me whenever there is a question. Okay, I'll be glad to
Yeah,
happy to. Yeah.
I think one question we Prashad, you can ask. You can unmute yourself, and if you have a provision to ask, you can ask. So Prashad's question is, can I know about the system intuitions once again, if you don't mind?
Yes. So system intrusion basically, Pratisha, it's about how do you hack into a system, right? So let's say there is a server, there is a lot of other services that are there. Let's say if you want to connect to a remote server, how do you connect to a remote server? There is an SSH available out there, and there are other services like FTP and other services that could be run. So this basically deals about how do you do port scanning, and how do you see what are the different softwares or services running on them, and then you are pen testing those devices. How do you compromise an SSH? How do you compromise, Apache web server running on a web application is different, but still there may be other ways we can compromise that. Your FTP server can be compromised. In some cases, RDP protocols, remote desktop protocols in Windows, can also be used to compromise that. And there are a lot of other ways, right? The file sharing mechanisms are there, and user management is there, out there. And when you talk about SSH, there's a lot of things that come into play, right? Is the root user enabled or not? Can I log in as the root user from a remote machine? And those things and things like that, right? So what if, right, your application is based on Python and there is a vulnerability in the Python which gives you an access for that, right? And that is nothing relevant to a particular application, right? You can particularly craft, even the application may be secure, but your Python, underlying Python is compromised. What you're going to do with that, right? How do you patch those things? Is basically into that. So we can talk it as an infrastructure security. How do you go into that process? And it also deals about is how do you get inside and you continue to stay inside as well, right? Web application predominantly we're talking about WAS top 10, SQL injection, and things like that. XSS attack, broken access control, all those things will come under web application attack. Yeah. So I think probably you'll have an, I'm giving a very base information out here, but when we come to the next webinar session, the week two, you'll have a much more clear, because that is where we talk about infrastructure security, where you'll get into much more things. Hope that answered your question.
Sorry, I got a question.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you talked about that earlier on or not. I know
Okay.
cybersecurity has different, what I call it, modules or departments or different sections. So
Correct.
what's going to be the target for job for here when at the end of the training? What are we going to target? What kind of job are we going to be looking at?
Yes. This is basically we are looking at is from an DevSecOps engineer role. All right. So let's say, as I told, it is going to be, let's say you have a web application. How are you going to secure that web application? Now, most of the companies will have some form of application that is going to be there. So how are you going to secure? One of the ways of securing application is using pen testing. So you pen test a web application, hack the app website and see the vulnerabilities that are there. This is bit of an old style, because the problem with this approach is that you're doing after the application is developed. Okay. So we want to do something before the application is developed. So meaning you will talk about DevSecOps, that is understanding threat modeling at the design phase itself, and during the implementation phase. During coding also, you're doing a lot of activities. You're still conducting pen testing, but you are going to be working on the design and the threat modeling phases as well. That is done here. And also we'll talk about the new landscape, that is the cloud. So basically it deals about is that when you take your application from a traditional server, put it into a cloud server, how you're going to secure that. And this is basically a DevSecOps engineer role, and it's about 90% of all job openings. What we see will come in this particular purview of it, right? So a lot of the development teams want to have an engineer, cybersecurity engineer in their teams who can help them secure the application from day one, rather than having to know about the application security issues at a later stage. You know, so that is the main goal, or where the target job role is there for this.
So if what I got from your take now is we're going to be doing pen testing, which is going to be the major skill that we are taking out from this training, right?
Yes, both pen testing as well as how do you set up in DevSecOps, you do set up in DevOps, you set up a pipeline for getting the project up and running and get the process. In there, we'll also talk about how to use security operations in DevOps, that is DevSecOps. We will see how to do security scanning and things in that as well. So it is a combination of both. You're focusing on pen testing. At the same time, you're focusing on DevSecOps as well. Both are going to be covered in this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any more questions, guys, before we go into cybersecurity?
No, sir, continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So what is cybersecurity? It's a practice of protecting systems, network or programs from digital attack. Business need comprehensive solution that can build for them, protecting information, reputation, and continuity. Right. The reason why cybersecurity, as you can see, there's a lot of security here. How do we secure your servers, your application, your data, and how to secure it in a better way? Right. That is the thing. Security is not something new. It has been there for a very long time. And when I started, cybersecurity about 15 years back, it was a bit of a taboo subject. There was a security issue, those times as well, but it was, you have to be very careful at that time, right? Even getting a certified ethical hacker certification was a bit difficult. You need to get your background verified before taking those exams at that time, is what I feel. Nowadays it is been less, right? It's not. But my question is, why is there an all of a sudden increase in job demand? Why is that everyone wants to get their application tested or secured in all of a sudden? Right, no? The reason behind for this is compliance. The government, the compliance organizations, our companies are telling you need to get your security up, and we need a proof that your applications are secure. You want to do business. There have been many cases where we have all of a sudden will come up with, and a client will come to you and tell you they want their application to be tested, and a certificate need to be issued to them that application is fixed or there's no vulnerabilities in it. The main reason for that is one reason is compliance, right? There's like something like ISO, and there's a government regulations that if you're handling financial data, you need to do provide this much security, and these are the activities that need to be done. If you don't do that, they're going to revoke your license. And in some cases, what happens is that when these startups want to communicate or to do business with large organization, this large organization will tell, I'm giving you my data. How do I know you are a secure organization? So they need to prove that. So that is the reason why there is there. Unfortunately, companies don't give you a priority for your data. They would tell you that they want to keep your data secure and priority, but it is not there. They're doing it most of the time is because of there is a government regulation or a compliance requirement for that. So how do you secure these devices? Right? What do you constitutes? What is important that you need to do? So three parts that will come into play here is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right? It is CIA, confidential, integrity, and availability. So basically here it's very simple. Confidentiality meaning someone who can read your data is supposed to have that right. It should be authorized to read your data. Someone reading your data is without your any permission or unauthentical way, it is a breach of confidentiality. Right? Only certain amount of people are able to see for that. Understand this confidentiality predominantly deals with read. There is nothing, we are not making any modification. If the data is compromised, that is breach of security, breach of confidentiality. But if the data is modified or deleted, and that time it will come as integrity is bypassed, right? So integrity and confidentiality dealing with data. But availability, right? Availability does not deal with data at all. Does not deal, there is nothing stolen in availability. There's nothing modified in availability. But what happens is that the legitimate users will not be able to use the application or the service that is supposed to be given out there. For instance, let's say manager is supposed to attend a very important meeting. Someone steals their laptop. That is a physical lack of physical security. He will not be able to attend the laptop, and that is also breach of security. Or someone, what they will do is that before the manager is out on a visit on remote location, someone compromise the network. He's not, even though laptop is with him, data is secure, but he's not able to exchange data because there's no network. That is also availability, right? And the DOS attack, what we saw, bringing down web servers so that they can't do business, that is also loss of availability, right? Think about Amazon doing millions and millions of dollars of business every day. And if they lose, if the server goes down even for an hour, what is the amount of business loss they're going to see, right? Something which they might see in Amazon, they might, if the website is down, people may go to their competitor website and purchase the same product, right? So that is availability, compromising, making users, legitimate users, not able to access the services is what is that. And second thing is authentication and authorization. This is very important. Basically, it deals about who you are and what you are, right? Basically deals with who you are, what you are. Authentication basically is about username and password, what we can tell, right? For instance, authentication deals with three types: something you know, something you are, or something you have. Something you know is your password because you remember that. Something you are is biometric, your facial scan, your retina scan, your fingerprint, what you use in your mobile, all comes under biometrics. That is something you are. And something you have is like your access card. Company, whenever you want to get inside and out, that is when you swipe in, swipe out, is what is talk about something you have. Authorization is entirely a different scenario out there, right? Authorization basically deals about when you, right, you already have access, you have identified yourself who you are, but you are accessing something which you're not supposed to access. For instance, let's say you may be a student in a university and you may be a computer science student, but instead of attending computer science lecture, you go and attend biology lecture or a chemistry lecture. That you're not authorized. You're not that student belonging to that batch and you're accessing that. That can be taken as an authorization. You are still a university student, that you're not accessing that, right? Similarly, in a work environment, you can tell let's say a national level company which has branches in all over US, right? A manager who is responsible for San Francisco should not have access to the Texas manager's data. But if he's able to access that, that it becomes an authorization issue. And that is basically it is that, right? In admin pages are there and things like that. As what you can see, a manager will have access to the admin page and only he should have access to the admin page. But the normal company or a hacker is able to gain access to the admin page or a normal employee is able to access, then it becomes an unauthorized access, right? So that's the thing out there. So So who are these hackers and what is the motivation behind for them behind this attack? You know, so basically hackers are people who have a malicious intent to break in your system and they are do it for multiple things. One of the main thing is financial gain. When large organization get compromised, it may be 73 million users or things like that. They steal this data and put it up for sale, and a lot of companies buy this data, right? You might have seen a lot of people buying, why do you think whenever you book an air ticket with your credit card, they'll ask you to get the card that you bring to the airport, right? This is because there is a lot of cases that people have stolen credit card information, right? Stolen credit card information and booked air tickets in someone else's credit card. And this has happened. This has happened and have seen people been using it in a different way. Those are the reasons, right? Your single credit card information can be stored up to, if it is a very new one, it can be stored up to $25 per card information. And as it goes, more people are getting it, goes down. I think it has gone up to 10p, $1 and things and all for that as well. So that is how they do. An activist is basically the second point here is like you might have seen a lot of people in recent times during the you know Ukraine Russia war. You might have seen a lot of Russian website or Ukrainian website getting compromised and a lot of messages. There's no data compromise, but they replace those messages actual pages with a messages degrading that particular country. So that is what basically this is about activist. And the fourth one is espionage. Basically, this is about stealing other companies' data, your competitors' data. Copyright information is stolen, intellectual property is stolen, meaning someone may be having a blueprint for a particular product, how to manufacture them, or how to create a particular chemical. All those things can be stolen out there. And that is where espionage comes into play. And finally is the personal revenge, right? Personal revenge is like when people are in relationship and they go out and things due to they people start posting, try to hack their systems and collect very crucial information, start posting that data online and to get even with them. So this is basically to do revenge of that. The
Hello, Karthik.
one, yes, Suresh.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, please.
There is a very interesting question for you
Yeah,
from, I think, Abdullah, right?
yeah.
Abdullah, you have asked that whether will the lessons over the coming weeks also cover how artificial intelligence affects cybersecurity, and if there are ways to use AI against hackers that use AI attacks. A very interesting, I think, question is.
Yeah, but for this particular webinar session, we are not covering AI as a cybersecurity. Future we are planning for that uh, because it's quite early. There are certain cases. Uh, what we have seen is that what AI is doing for an attack vector from that, it is predominantly from an automation perspective. Right? So instead of me writing an automation code for that, we are getting the AI to write an automation code and doing those kind of an activity. But there is a lot of research that is going out there using AI, and it is not something new. But we are seeing AI right now. But in the organization like US DARPA and NSA are working a lot on AI, how to use AI, right? Mainly because they're also not only working on how to attack, they're also doing a lot of research on how do you prevent attacks. As the attack take place, the AI should be able to understand the attack and provide the mitigation on the fly, right? So you should be able to rewrite the code for the application on the fly and do all those things. But right now, I think probably the next 4 weeks, we are not focusing on that. Probably, yeah. In the next series, we are trying to add that one, right? We want to add that particular because we don't want to come up with an half-baked topic into that. We'll do a lot of research on that. Once it's done, we'll come back to that. But yeah.
Thank you, Karthik.
Okay. So we have talked about financial gain, activist espionage, and personal revenge. Financial gains about 90% of the reasons why. The most dangerous of them, all of this, is the national security, right? So gone are the days where countries would give more importance to how to secure their infrastructure, right? So nowadays, countries are more into how do you hack. The amount of money they can spend on cybersecurity for any big country is limitless. Their budget can be very high. They will put any Google or Facebook cybersecurity budget to shame. And there are rumors that for cybersecurity professional, NSA waits for all the major companies to give them an offer, and they'll double it or even triple it to get them off of there. So in comes to so main reason is that, let's say if the company is at war, what if you can compromise the nuclear facility of the enemy country, right? What if you can compromise the dam? What if you open the dams for the enemy country without, because everything is going to be computerized. Your nuclear power plants are completely computerized and things. It has happened. Your Stuxnet is one of the example. Iranian nuclear power plant was compromised using American and Israelis what they've done. And officially it's not been there, but unofficially it is understood that Israel and US was involved in Stuxnet. They tried to compromise. So it is very important, though very scary as well, right? So So who are the bad actors? The lone wolf or the single individuals are bygone era. Very rarely you see nowadays having a single individual doing an attack and doing a lot of things, because systems have become more complicated, so complicated security. It is no longer, but we still see there are multiple cases that is there. Nation states are the biggest threat, as I just now told. But what we are seeing in recent time is the mafia or the cartels getting into cybersecurity, right? They will have whatever we are seeing nowadays, the spamming, or you see a lot of SMS that you're getting duped or things like that, scammed online. This is not something which is done by individual, and nation states are not interested in that. This is predominantly an organized crime, where the set of people decide, they have a proper organization, they know when to attack and things and all those things, right? So recently one of my friend got scammed. He lost a lot of money. It happened exactly around 28th of that month, that is last month, 28th. The reason is that it is around the time when he's going to get his money, salary. From 28th, first or second, there's a good time. This is where they will do for scamming. They'll tell you, we are calling from a bank, your card has been blocked, can you tell us the number of your card, we'll unblock it. They'll get the OTP, they will transfer the money and things like that. This happens, right? And the billing scams will occur about 15th of the month, right? A lot of your internet billing and other things, telephone and other things usually happens on the 15th, because the billing will complete on 13th, but last due date is going to be on the 15th of that month. So they will work on that way. right? Organized crimes play a very important role, right? So how do we secure, right? What is the things that we have to do, right? So a comprehensive protection so includes more than blocking attack. It includes cyber tools, process, people, and backup and data recovery solutions and assessments, right? There are multiple things. Security is never a single thing. We'll always talk about security in an onion perspective. Just like an onion has multiple layers before we could reach the core, a security should always have a multiple layers, multiple things that is going to happen out there, and we have to work on it, right? And we'll talk about how the attacks have changed over time, right? It has been modified over time, and how it is going to be, why there's a need for multi-layer approach, right? So that is why a security professional in any organization is not sticking to one single activity. He's doing a lot of things, right? So we'll see in the initial days, the cyber threats were the physical thefts, right? People used to go into organizations, steal servers and data out there, because once you have the hard drives or laptops, you could plug it to any other place and read the data, right? So for that, what they did was they started encrypting the hard drives, they started encrypting the laptops program. There's a very specific reasons why major organization will give you only two types of laptops for you. Either it's going to be ThinkPad or it's going to be Mac, nothing else. You don't get, very rarely you'll see people given Dell and things like that. The reason behind is that your ThinkPad and your MacBook comes with an inbuilt encryption. So any data that is there on the hard drive will be encrypted by default. There is no additional things that is so when this started happening, the security attacks went down significantly. But then we got into denial of service attack, where servers start getting a lot of hits and we were not able to do. So overcome this kind of an attack, they started having multiple devices, multiple backup servers and things, and that also was suppressed. And now later they started was email attacks, giving phishing mails to customers or employees and things like that. And we have done a lot of, we do simulation attacks for the customers. They'll tell, okay, we want to check how good our employees are making sure that they don't click on phishing mail, because they would have got training and all on how not to do that. And we do it. What we do is that we do a lot of research. We see what are the nearby or restaurants and things like that, what are the events that is in and around the office, and we do send out fake coupons telling that fill out this information, and your company portal, via company portal you can access it. And we'll have a fake company profile as well, right? Company portal as well, where they will authenticate themselves. There are a lot of cases. Then we do it for 2 or 3 days. Then we go back and show them, this is what has happened. Anyway, we are not recording your username or password, but these are the users who connected, and you should be careful on that. And that's there. And malware attacks, virus attacks, that is gone, and botnets, right? So this was overcome using your antivirus and those things. Social attacks are pretty much the same thing. Try to look into someone's, their lot of social profile. How can I guess your password, right? How can I guess your password and things that are there? So a lot of people will put up their where they put geotag their locations, or sometimes they'll take a photograph in front of their house, which will have the geotag, and along with their house number in the photograph that will be there. They'll put up all their relatives, whenever there's a birthday and which year they're turning and what is that, and everything is going to be put up, right? If someone tell I'm turning 18 or 21 today and things like that, I can clearly get the date of birth and I can calculate what could be their possible password, because on the research it is shown that a lot of people will use either their birthday or their loved one's birthday as the password pattern for that. So that can also be used for cracking passwords. Now we are focusing more towards random passwords and things it is there, right? And the newer trend is AI assisted attacks, right? AI assisted attacks, and we are seeing something called as a prompt attack, prompt engineering, where recently an AI was duped into giving someone a free car in US, right? So he told, it is very, it's very interesting how it's done, but it is possible nowadays. Even AIs can be hacked, AI engines can be hacked as well. It comes into a lot more, what kind of an authorization that AI has and things like that, that into play. But AI is a bit more, complicated for the current situation. As more and more time goes in, we'll be able to attack it. We'll understand it better. But right now, as what we can say, these are the different things that is happening out there, right? So what are the different ways that you are, security solutions for that? For physical security, we introduced logs. For denial of service, we saw firewall. For virus and malware and botnets, we saw antivirus getting done, and we saw pen testing as well, right? Was one of the main things, right? For phishing mail and things like that, SATs or security awareness training. You might have seen in a lot of organizations, someone will come and talk about security. What are the things that they should do, and what are the things that should not do? All those things are going to be explained. A employee is given a brief overview of the security, and they'll talk about which are the links they should not click, which are the SMS they should not open, which are the messages on WhatsApp they should not open, and things like that, right? So that is what is going to be there. And recently, what we're talking about is SOC, right? Security Operating Center, endpoint detection and response, and managed detection and response. So basically, it's about you are monitoring the endpoint devices and then managing them. So, for instance, security operating systems, every organization, especially banks and large organization, you might see, right, there will be one large room where all the devices in the network is monitored, right? All the servers, all the laptops or things like that. Even if one of the, let's say there are about 40,000 employees, even if one of the employees plugs in a USB drive into the laptop, there is going to be an alert message immediately on the screen for them to talk. So that's why you'll see a lot of time when you put in a plug in a pen drive, you'll get a call immediately asking why did you do that. You need to have some special privileges for that, right? People are going getting, you know, they are finding a way around it, right? Because one reason is people hardly use pen drives these days, and people are putting the data on Google Drive or there and accessing it from there. But there's still, it is evolving and much more, it is there. It is quite important to monitor the devices, right? And you're seeing keystroke management. A lot of employees are removed because they're using their laptops for their personal employ. Why? Because it is the security operations center which is monitoring that, right? So any questions till now, what we are seeing? So in the main course, when we're doing, we talk about a lot of about firewall and pen testing as well, right? So apart from DevOps, DevSecOps pipeline, we also talk about how do you secure and things and all, right? So that's that. So what are the different, bad actors find access in corporate network to social agent and environment vulnerabilities. So where are the different ways that they can compromise? How they get into that. So about 49% of the time, you'll get people to compromise their multi-factor authentication. It people
Uh,
think, yeah,
Sorry, Karthik.
yeah,
Again, there is a question from Abdullah.
yes,
Is I am not well versed with DevSecOps, but I once read that DevOps utilize load balancers to direct traffic. So,
yes,
as a DevOps engineer, DevSecOps engineer, would we be using load balancers be able to handle the DDoS attacks, or will that depend on the size of the organization? Please also clarify for me what a botnet attack is. Thanks.
yeah. So let me answer the botnet attack is, for instance, let's say uh, there is one particular tool, for instance, let's say for when I'm doing my training, you can see that I'm using one marker type kind of thing here, and I can do annotation on the screen. Okay. What if there is a vulnerability in this particular tool and attacker can compromise my system using that? Okay. So now same tool can be used by millions of other users. Okay. So now what he will do is that he will do an automation. He will do an automation for that to get to know all the devices that are having this process and hack those systems and use those hack systems to do further attack. Right? Let's say he will hack my system and via my system, he will hack the Google server. So now Google server is going to think it's Karthik who is doing the attacking on me. So I should take action against him, right? But in fact, I'm not doing anything. It has been my device is compromised and it is acting as a robot or a bot for the hacker out there, right? When I told previously, a IP based camera was hacked and it about 10 million devices where IP cameras were hacked and was used for an attack. That is a botnet attack, right? We're using the devices for that part, right? And when you talk about the second question now, uh, can load balancers be used for preventing DOS attacks? To a certain extent, yes. Again, it depends on how much you can manage, right? The reason you might see that I exact same example I told that 1 million, almost 1 million IP cameras were hacked for that. The reason why they went for those 1 million devices is that the entity or the organization they attacked, they had a very good load balancer in play. They were able to manage a very large data at the same time. So meaning, so even if there are about 5 million people users accessing that server at the same time, it would not crash. That is how good they were. In order to do that process, what they did was to have this many devices to compromise. Nowadays, if you take few years back, load balancers were a very good effort to block DDoS, denial of service attack. But nowadays we're getting a very customized approach. What happens is that in a DDoS attack, server will get overwhelmed. We do provide that as a service to certain clients because they want to check whether their servers are DDoS protected or not. And when it is not done properly, it will actually crash their server and it will take them 3 to 4 days to get it back. They lose a lot of business in that. So now you will get Barracuda and there are a lot of other services. Even your AWS also provides DDoS protection, where what it will do is that when there is a particular increase in a traffic, it will start looking for pattern. It will check whether the traffic, large amount of traffic is coming from a set number of devices, meaning I can send 2 million, 20,000 or 2 million requests from a single device. So it will tell, okay, there are about more than 100 requests coming from this particular device. Let me block this. I will not send this data to the server at all. Or it could be particular pattern because DDoS has to have one thing. All of them will have a same message pattern and they will always have a certain number of IP addresses, right? So at that time that could be done. So that is going to happen out there. And they will provide and prevent those messages from reaching the server, hence providing a better DDoS protection. But yeah, it is more into an infrastructure security than from an web application security. I know in the end you're securing the web application, but the protection is given at the infrastructure level, right? The firewall is going to be there. Even firewall can be, brought down using DOS attack, right? If you're sending a large amount of data to the firewall, it is dropping all the packets. It is going to be overwhelmed. It will not be able to gain access. Right? Hope it answered your question.
Thank you, Karthik. There is another one from Ola saying,
Okay.
does this course also focus on cloud security?
Uh, a small extent, we don't. In this internship program, we do with the fourth week is cloud security. Yes, we do cover cloud security there. See, cloud security is predominantly what is a cloud system? It is your someone else's computer, right? If you have the server in your machine in your company location, is just there is about 90% of the things very common when you put the same server on the cloud on the AWS. There are few additional things that you need to take care, but most of them will remain the same, right? So in this course, in this internship, we do cover cloud security. That's the fourth week that we're covering out there. Yeah. Any more questions?
No, thanks, Kat.
Yeah, thank you very much. So for gaining access, let's come back. So how do hackers gain access predominantly, right? They're doing social engineering, they're using credential compromise and things like that. So credentials, getting someone else username and password is predominantly that. Multi-factor authentication, we are getting an OTP and things like that. You will see it is not that difficult. When you go into pen testing and see, you'll see that it's not that difficult to compromise an OTP. Nowadays, there is the reason why the OTP is valid only for 30-second or 60-second. And again, the valuation. Previously, if you go a couple of years back, your OTP would be 3-digit number. Nowadays, it is more than 6-digit or 7-digit. There's the reason for that because it is quite easy to compromise a 3-digit, right? And it is also, you don't see, if you go a few years back, OTP will get a math question. What if 2 plus 56 equal to, that is what is the OTP was going to be there. So CAPTCHA and OTPs can be compromised if you don't implement properly. So when that is not done, your credentials, about 49% of the time hackers gain into system using authentication bypass. Phishing, meaning making employees or target click on links they're not supposed to. And then, so this is basically the CSRF attack in web application we see. So how do we provide security awareness training and email filters? Credentials, multi-factor authentication, you have to be very careful. So it has to be very good quality multi-factor authentication. Exploits, meaning if there's a vulnerability in Python and the underlying software and things, there you have to, only option you have is to update. That is the update the software that is going to be patched, right? So that is how it is going to be there. So, but why? Yes, small and medium business believe in risk. So why people are going into, you know, hacking and things like that? Why we need to provide? Because there's a lot of financial loss as well. Espionage and ideology and things are a bit less, but financial loss is a major role, right? Lot of small companies have not taken into consideration they have lost big time in recent times. It will affect them. In larger companies also it has affected. For instance, when you see Target supermarket in US what compromised sometime back, couple of years back, and that they got hacked around October or November, and their in the story broke that Target lost a lot of data and they had to disclose that information. But that happened at a very important time. That happened during the Christmas. Before Christmas, people did not purchase product from Target online. Either they went to the store and purchased or they moved to in some other location. The impact, even though they lost the data, that was financial loss was there. The trust in the brand was also lost that because of that cyber attack. It was such a big impact. The financial loss was so high, I think they had to close the Canada operations and they fired thousands of employees all over the world, right? So that was the reason for that. Financial is a major loss, and every year we see, and this is the official number, 10.3 billion losses in 2022, but it will be much more than that. And here, this is not, banks are not, are exempted from disclosing the official numbers because if people lose trust in banks, they will not put money in them. So banks are exempted from disclosing cybersecurity and how much money they lose, but it is again in billions, right? So what are the 5 stages? So what is this? How do I secure it, right? So foundation security, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and things and all that is there. So you have to make sure that foundational security, administrative access is there, the firewall is in place and things like that. Endpoint protection, backup and recovery is set up out there if any data is lost, right? So we recently helped out a organization, they got ransomware attack. They told that should we pay the ransom, we asked do you have a backup of the data? They told yes we have a backup. That we told don't pay, completely redelete, format your systems and reinstall and put the protection in place what we told them and go back with that. If they had not backed up the data, they would have lost And this was one of the biggest hotel chains that was there. So they had a lot of customer data. Data was not lost, but it was, you know, it was ransomware. That was the major attack. So it all the data got encrypted. So hackers did not see the data, but they compromised. They deleted the data. And can tell we can tell that, right? So policies and awareness basically talks about cybersecurity policies, making sure company password policy is there. You're conducting regular pen testing. How do you? A lot of people are working online nowadays, working from home, and you got to help them understand what are the things they can do in their company profile, laptops, and things under what they can't do, and help them. Security awareness training plays a major role nowadays. That is why from a compliance perspective, it is important to do a security awareness training for a lot of companies, which I do as well, where we go to large organizations, we interact with the crowd, with the employees, tell them what they can do and what not they can do. They also, surprisingly, you will see a lot of these employees are cybersecurity attack victims from their personal life, right? They would have lost their money and things. And it is quite so common. Even after having so much awareness, people still fall for the cyber, criminals for that, right? So then the stage three is basically it's about an infrastructure level management, right? You're regularly assessing your infrastructure. You're seeing all the software that was used there is been up to date and things like that. You remember Equifax where we thought the social security number was lost for half of the US population? That attack happened because they were using a vulnerable software. That there was a vulnerability available. They told this particular software used by Equifax who had security issues, more than 6 months. They did not fix it for 6 months. If they had fixed it, they wouldn't have lost that data, right? So that's the problem. So making sure your configuration, the files and servers are configured properly, it is there. And then again, incident response planning and training is stage four. If in case you get hacked, if in case you get compromised, what is you're supposed to do, right? What is the steps, right? You might have seen in a lot of movies and things like that, whenever a pilot is driving, flying an aeroplane, if there is an engine failure or anything, they have a certain steps to follow because they have planned already for this type of an attack what they are supposed to do and how they're going to do that. And that planning should be there and that training should be there. And also we should also do a drill. You might have seen fire drill in your organization. That is also some kind of a security drill as well. In case there is a security incidents, how we are going to do that. So that is going to be their incidents. And finally, as I told, security monitoring, SOC. You're constantly looking at things, what is happening, and threat hunting for that. These are the ways you can secure your network, right? But you still see a lot of attacks. There's a clear set of things that need to be done, but still see a lot of attacks happening out there. So why do you see this happening out? This is happening because companies business priority is given more importance, and we have seen this happen quite a lot of times. uh, we have seen that when we tell in certain organizations there will be a password management, they tell they will not follow that process. They'll tell any password length, even a 4 character length can be used as a password for their customers, right? We'll tell this is not a good priority. They'll tell if I increase the password complexity, this is not going to be useful, right? Customers may not log into the system. We have to make it easier for them. And this has been in a real case. Uh, One of the biggest banks in India, ATM machine was compromised. We went back and told that this is the compromise. The problem is the operating system. This bank was using a very old operating system. And they told, fine, we are not going to do anything about it. Yeah, they told it is easier for me to recover the money lost in a single ATM is less than the money that will cost me to change the operating systems in all the ATMs. Right, there are about thousands of ATMs all over India, and that is much more cheaper. losing someone stealing money from that ATM is much more cheaper for me. And also there's a guard out there. So they're prioritizing the business rather than giving the security, right? So managing security at the scale is also second point. So this is happening because a small organization will have a small number of people, and all of a sudden their business grows and the organization grows rapidly, and they cannot increase the security to because the way the security works when small number of people is less different, and way it works is when large people are there, the more number of people it's different. So they will find it difficult to increase the security and train everyone, get everyone on board and do everything. So that is one of the security reasons why we still see breaches. Lack of knowledge, and I think this is one thing, there is an ignorance that is there. A lot of companies will don't know that they can be hacked. They think there's no data in this, and they tell lot of confidence. And this has happened in real time where a big organization, they told we are getting our assessment done by some other company, it is 100% secure and things. And we went and told them, see, we think, because we are seeing, we do some passive gathering information, nothing, we are not exploiting, but we see where that is there, I think there's a big problem. And we told, if we don't find, we'll do the assessment for free, but if we find, we'll charge. They told fine, yeah, they were very confident, they took it as a challenge. It took us 4 days, and we gave them a 70-page report telling that how vulnerable their devices are, right? Their network is, and they were shocked. They had a critical meeting and an emergency meeting to overcome this kind of an issues. That's a big problem out there. That was because lack of knowledge. They didn't have a security team at that place. So when we went back, they told, okay, fine, you want, please come over, come on board and help us out. So we not only did the thorough assessment once again, and we also helped them set up a security team which will help them with their day-to-day activities, right? That is there. And fourth one is targeted attacks. Everyone will have some kind of a security in place and things like that. But in some situations, there is an you get unlucky, and a high quality, high caliber, very sophisticated attackers or hackers choose to attack your company, right? So at that time, there's much little you can do. There is nothing called as an 100% security. If someone is telling you that we're going to give you 100% security, they're lying, right? We can only make it more difficult for the hackers to get the data, but if they want to compromise, they'll always find a way, and this is the case, right? So, so that's one of the main principles of security. Nothing is 100% secure, right? We can only make it more difficult out there, right?
Okay, Karthik,
Yes,
again, Abdullah has come up with a good question. So it's a long question. So if I can ask you to just have a look.
yes. You want me to? Which one is that?
It is this one. Yeah, the last one. Last but one
This one?
from Abdullah. Just before. Yeah, yeah, this one. This one. As a
This
DevOps,
one.
as a DevOps, a DevSecOps, I assume.
One second. Let me understand. You working in setup just only programs. So let me understand this question. What? Let me tell what I've understood. So you're telling, let's say AWS will have a lot of their servers in US, but do they have any local servers or AWS farms, server farms in South Africa? Yes, they will have. Nowadays, AWS is expanding, especially when you go to Middle East. Saudi Arabia has a strict rule: no data is supposed to go out. So if there's any server that is collecting Saudi citizen information, that information cannot go out of US Saudi, right? So they need to have a data center in there and store that information there itself. So every organization AWS, that is why, whenever you're selecting in AWS, you'll always select the location where you want. So that is one of the reasons why a certain locations are cheaper, certain locations are expensive, because the cost of maintaining those, for instance, AWS maintaining their server farms in Saudi can be more expensive for them. So they will charge you more if you are running your AWS out there. And same thing at South Africa will have a lot of government level sanctions or government level data security features, which will ask them to have a data center local. All right. So that is possible. That is very much true. It is possible for that. Again, uh, cloud providers give a lot of importance for security. But when we come to cloud security in the fourth week, we'll see there is a division of that, right? There is a certain components cloud providers are responsible for providing the security, and certain components users are responsible for providing the security. For instance, physical security that is taken care by the cloud service provider, infrastructure security, meaning there is no vulnerabilities in the operating system. Let's say you're using Ubuntu or Windows, they'll give you always the safest version of Ubuntu or safest version of Windows out there to be used out there, and that is not going to be a problem. But if there is a web application vulnerability, that is on you. Cloud will not do that activity for that. They can give services like WAF, but again, there is an issue out there. So we have to understand there's always a balance or a dance between the AWS provider and the client, and who is responsible for that. Once you understand that difference gap, it makes much more easier for you to provide the security, right? So it is always a good idea not to have your if you have an option for a local data center, that is a good thing to have. Don't try to store your data some other location, right? But companies cloud, the reason there are multiple things in certain situations, it is a bit more difficult to provide AWS cloud in multiple countries, is because they need to have a backup as well. If there is any natural calamity, they need to have two data centers and they will have a backup in the exact same copy in the other data center in some cases, because if there is a flood or there is an earthquake or any major disaster, they will lose all the data in that one data center. So in the same country, there should be one more data center. So if you're having in US, one can be in San Francisco, and the data backup can be in Texas or in Pennsylvania or any other location. Let's say if in India, it can be in one in Mumbai and one in Bangalore. That's how it will go, right? And data centers are kept very safe. You will not know. I once have been for a data center for an activity. I was going through that same building for more than 10 years. I did not know that was there. I was shocked to know that there is no board or anything. It shows a complete dark building out there. I always thought it is a warehouse, and that's how secure they are, and going through the gate and to the desk is again a security. Forget about going reaching the server room or things. Again, there's a lot of security things out there, just like that.
Okay, thank
So
you,
let's
Karthik.
understand. Thank you.
Sorry, it was not Abdullah, it was Alex. Sorry
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that, Alex.
No problem. Yeah. So, so now we'll understand one of the main reasons or one of our more major motivations. And even though, right, even though there's a lot of downtime or the market and IT recruitment market is bit low, but you'll see a lot of cybersecurity openings. And we have seen candidates who have, amount of interviews they attend is going to be quite high compared to any other, we're seeing the DevOps is getting more interviews and DevSecOps is getting more interviews compared to any other. The reason is that these companies are not able to find right set of people, people who are not coming out there. They might tell they need someone with the DevOps environment or DevSecOps with 5 or 6 years experience, but we are only seeing active adaptation of cybersecurity. You will get no one, very rarely you will get, will have about more than 10 years who has worked in DevSecOps or DevOps in that case, right? So because very less, it's a new technology and it is evolving, and the new tools are getting evolved every day, and that's a major problem, right? So that is the major thing. It is a critical reason for failing of security is not able to get correct staffing, and people are scrambling for that. The profile and the requirements are so high. We are seeing a lot of job openings. The interviews, the first round or the third round of interviews are directly conducted, or our CEOs are going to be chief executive officers, are going to be part of the interview process. They want to enter because that is how critical it is. Chief operations officers or IT, information security officers are there and working on it. So it is there, that much critical is there. The reason is, it is keep on going to increase, expected to grow. The market, in terms of financially, it is expected to go to 270 billion by 2026. uh, and more than 70% of the organization have a shortage. And even the organizations which are having a not skilled people out there. They're doing not good work out there. So they're finding it difficult because one of the reasons, as I told, 900 plus interviews conducted by my organization. I took a lot of interviews. About 90%, 95% of them we rejected. People who come from cybersecurity certifications and things, good quality cybersecurity, they can't pass through because their knowledge of what is required to be done there is very little. You know, so the difference is so high. For instance, there was a time the gap between a penetration tester and the developer was for every, I think it's about 500 developers, there was only one pen tester, right? When there was supposed to be for every 10 developers, there should be one pen tester. That was the requirement, but that was the gap, and it has continued to grow. And one of the reasons why we see DevSecOps having such a huge impact or such a rapid rise is because of lack of pen testers. And pen testing is one place where I've seen your skill set matters most. I've seen people who have not attended college getting a very high package, freshers getting very high package, who have no experience, who have knowledge of pen testing properly, is that. So it is an equalizer job, you can tell for that. No. So that is there. We can talk about one of the coolest cybersecurity job is digital forensic investigation. That is there, where whenever there is an attack or someone is compromised, we're doing an investigation. That is, it's going to be there. I it is a very difficult job. I have done my forensic studies, and I was the second rank in my university for that time for digital forensics. But I told I'm not going to take it after the course. It's a very difficult job, right? But pen testing was what I liked and which I do. And application pen testers, I do it more. Where you're checking, is there any you're hacking applications and checking out that what is there any vulnerabilities that is there. S- SOC analyst is growing. It requires little bit less technical skill set compared to pen testers, but it plays an important role, right? Uh, Cybersecurity defenders, security engineers, they, how do you tune firewalls, IDPs, and things and all? They deal with that. That is also, I have seen after pen testing and application security engineers, one of the most sought after is going to be security engineers. That deals with this is an infrastructure level. You're more concerned with how do you set up virtual VPNs, virtual private networks, how do you configure firewall and things and all that is there. And incident responder is, but if there's an attack, how does someone do that? So this is very large organization will have an independent team working on this. In a medium and small, already existing cybersecurity professionals will be trained to do this activity, right? So that we are seeing. Security architects, one of the main goals of our main course is for you to, train you towards becoming a security architect. how do you focus and how do you move forwards towards how to become a security architect. So basically, you will be an architect on designing the application, what has to be done, right? How do you do? You're implementing security at the design phase itself. So at the later stage, it is not patchwork that is going to be there. Secure development manager, that is similar to security architect, but at a development level, right? You're going to be involved more at the code level and understanding. An architect is more leveled around the design phase, and the secure software development is more about the code base. Is it? Malware, it is how do you protect against malware, because this companies do usually have a threat analysis teams, where whenever there's a new email comes in with a very suspicious content, they check that email content for anything malicious activity. There could be a virus in that attachment or any malware is there in that, they'll do that analysis. That is going to be done by them, right? And finally, the most important job, that is your CISO, the technical directors, who are going to be at an organization level. They're going to not, they're not architect works on a project level on a particular place. A technical director or chief information security officer, it oversees the entire organization security portfolio, right from physical security, firewall infrastructure, servers, what kind of a development team is doing, and all those things completely. He will have an overview, or you can tell he is going to be the puppet master in that situation, right? That is going to be there. But this is an old, it is not a latest job trend or anything. But one job profile that is the dark horse here is the DevSecOps. It is gaining rapidly. It is gaining rapidly. People want to implement, security architects want someone to do a lot of other things, right? DevSecOps deals about scanning softwares, scanning your code at the design level, at the implementation level. It's before it goes to the production environment. How do you secure your things out there, right? How to make ethical hackers like me my job more difficult is what DevSecOps engineer does, right? So we have seen this in real time. We used to go to application test, we used to get 30-40 vulnerabilities, and we'll showing that, okay, spoiling developers weekends, because with the report goes on Friday and they have to fix it by Tuesday, so they'll be working through over the weekend and things like that. And nowadays, certain projects we don't get anything because we will be losing our sleep because there's no vulnerabilities. Reason being is that during the design phase and the implementation phase only, they're fixing that vulnerabilities, right? They're identifying what attacks could happen out there. They're doing the mitigation there itself. So when we go there, we are not finding anything. It's very difficult and very demoralizing for attackers as well. But that's very important, right? It means that they are doing in the right direction. And we do a thorough check, and we also give them why we could not find any vulnerabilities. That is important. We have to show them these are the different attacks we did, and the application was good. It was able to prevent and withstand the attacks, right? Instead of it a breach, it was an incident, right? That is what. So that is happened because a DevSecOps engineer take care of that important and how to go about that, right? So again, there is a lot of, this is what we see. uh, Pen testers, sorry, the packages that is beyond in cybersecurity is quite good in the recent times. This is basically because there's a skill shortage, and we also believe that I also believe this skill shortage is going to be there for a long time, because of the complexity of the security, cybersecurity. Right? If you want to be really good, it's going to be difficult, very difficult to find good quality things. So training plays a very important role here, right? Especially for pen testers and security consultants like DevSecOps, it is very difficult to get. So training is important. All those things. Uh, Even in recession times, they are very getting very good pay. Okay. So, right. So, global cybersecurity workforce will have 3.5 million unfilled positions by 2026. 22% of security managers, it takes 6 months or more to find a qualified candidate for an open position. Actually, it will take more than that. This is an average number. I've told that 900 plus 95%, and were rejected, but 5% of those candidates were shortlisted. So these candidates, when we give them an offer letter, they come back and tell, okay, they'll have 90 days notice period before they could serve. The difficulty we had, because by the time in the 3 months they would have got offer from other locations and much higher package, it takes more than 6 months. So even though you shortlisted a candidate, someone else is going to offer a better package for them, and it is so difficult to manage. In the end, it was so difficult. We thought, instead of waiting to hire someone for 6 months, let's take a candidate and train them for 6 months, and that is how what we did, and that worked for us, because we could never find an experienced guy will come for the short salary we were offering. We were offering good salary. It's not that we were offering low, but the demand was so high that people were paying much more higher than the industry standard, right? So it becomes difficult. So that is happens out there, right? So there is going to be a lot of scrutiny when you're attending a cybersecurity job, because once you go there, you need to do certain activities they want, and there's a lot of places, lot of candidates who will go there with less knowledge, and they don't hire someone with less knowledge. That is the reason why a lot of these interviews will be conducted by the security directors, chief information security officers, or technical senior team members. That is very grueling. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have a proper skill set, it can be very difficult to clear. But once you clear, we have seen the packages going up to $150,000 and things like that if you're ready to relocate. you know that's it. The for the cybersecurity awareness day 1. So in the next classes in the internship program, we'll talk more about a particular job roles, right? How what you're doing as a pen tester, as you're doing as an infrastructure engineer, and DevSecOps engineer, what you do and how DevSecOps improves those things. We're going to look into that more. Okay. Any questions, guys, with the security awareness, what we've done, and anything related to security? Any questions?
Uh, my question is going to be, how long is the training going to be? Oh,
You're talking about the internship?
yeah,
Internship
no,
is
no.
for,
The internship is just for it, more like an intro. The entire course. How long is going to take us to go
yeah,
through?
that's going to be around somewhere between 60 to 70 hours of training for that. So it's about two
So
hours. So it is about 45 days
for
per
45
session.
days.
So yeah, like you're having the weekends as well, right? In the middle. So it's a nine, right, men?
So it's going to be
Like
an
it is
every.
one and
It's
a
going to be
half
an everyday
weeks.
thing.
1.5 month. Yeah.
Yeah, one.
I didn't get you.
Is it going to be an everyday training? You know, time
Yeah.
also, because some of us are in the US, and if we do it, is it going to be in the evening? I'm going to kind of try to get the timing, and so that we will be able to plan and work towards that.
Yes. So
I know,
usually it is in
and
the,
I know you are based in India, and your timing is kind of different from ours. So how do we marry those together and come up with something?
yeah. So usually the timing for me, it's going to be in the morning for me, but it will be for the US. It's somewhere around in the evening itself. So post your work when you're, that is where.
So
So
all
evening.
here I would like
Yeah.
to add, all of our, as our consultancy based in US, so all of our classes are mainly focused in US time zone. So it is like a 7:30, normally 7:30 p.m. to Central Time to 9:30 p.m. CST.
Okay.
We also sometime have a morning batch, but that is little rare based upon our EU students availability.
Okay. Thank you.
And when does the training officially start? Do we have a date for it?
It is going to start of end of this month because one of our one of our batch is right now ongoing. Once that batch is going to end, then only we can just start our new batch. So I we are assuming that this current batch is going to end in third week of our third week of July. So hopefully we can start our new batch in July last week or fourth week.
Okay, great. So when is the next internship session webinar?
So next every days, every Saturday, the same time with the same
Okay,
link.
sure. Thank you. Do we have access to these recordings?
Yeah, this session was recorded, and we will upload this recording in your WhatsApp group as well as maybe it will take 1 day, 1 or 2 days, but this recording will be available. So before we virtually wrap up today's cybersecurity session, any other question?
I think I have one last question.
Please go ahead.
So, how does you know the jobs we can actually apply for differentiate to? I know I usually see jobs related to like governance and risks and compliance. With this training, can one also apply to jobs as regards to that, like GRC, risk analyst, or so to speak?
I
No.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
man.
Karthik is the best one who can give you the answer.
Yes. So this will give you a bit idea about what the job is going to be, what you're supposed to do. The reason is compliance jobs, GRC and things like that. It is more towards an administrative work, meaning you're going to given a checklist and you're supposed to do that checklist is done or not is what you're going to check out there. Whereas this course and this job profile is more into technical stuff, right? So we do because I have been part of ISO compliance team because we as a company we are getting our set of ISO certified, and we are also working on SOC 2 and things as that. Uh, for that reason, there is a very different approach. For that, it is more towards security controls, what is in play, and things like that. We do cover a certain amount of things, but not everything. Probably it will not. If you have done this course, it will make more sense why you're doing a certain activity in GRC compliance. Okay, if they're asking password length to be 8 character or 12 character long, you will know why is that should be there, and you will know why pen testing has to be done out there, and you will see what is the other things that are there. So it will give you a little bit of understanding why you're doing certain activity in compliance, but it is not related to compliance. The compliance is completely a theoretical approach and a concept based approach. There's no practical part in that. And we don't cover to a large extent where you can apply for the job openings.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Guys, do you have any other question? Okay, then we
Yeah,
are,
I
Hello.
do have a question.
yeah.
So
I
just
have a
to add
question
to,
too. Yes.
yeah, to what the question that the last person asked. So what kind of job title can we apply for with this training?
So you're basically going to apply for DevSecOps engineer, security analyst role, penetration tester role, and also it could be a security engineer role in some cases because you will also understand what are the attack vectors and how do you secure. So you're also going to be part of the design team as well, right? So that those are the different job profiles that you're going to be applying out there. Right? It is quite from a role perspective, we do talk about it, but when you actually go and check out in LinkedIn, it is a bit different. A lot of companies give out same kind of a title for different job roles. If you actually go through the content, what is responsible? So basically, from a responsible person, an employer responsibility. the roles which will require to test application security, that is pen testing, security analyst or cybersecurity analyst roles, or security engineers roles, that is predominantly how do you secure what security mechanisms to be in place to secure the application. Job 2 and job 3 is DevSecOps engineer. So how do you are going to take into that, right? And vulnerability analyst is also one of those roles that is going to be there as well, where you're doing an infrastructure scan and seeing how to identify vulnerabilities there. These are the different roles that is going to be.
So you said DevSecOps. Are you going to teach us DevOps?
Uh, we are going to look into different tools. DevOps will be covered, but it will be more emphasis will be given on the tools, how to integrate the cybersecurity tools in the DevOps pipeline. Yeah, you got my
Okay.
answer?
And you
Yeah.
also talked about pen testing too. So are we going to be also exposed to some hacking tools?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
predominantly, we'll be there's a slight we will introduce you to infrastructure hacking, but most of the pen testing or the hacking part will be done on the web application part. So you will actually know how to test application security, is it good or not, and you'll also have a lot of resources and checklist that you are supposed to do when you get an application. You will have around 200 plus different checklists you have to go through. Those things also will be shared as well in the part of the course for you. And so again, it depends, right? We have a bare minimum amount of checklist or the hacking activities that are there. If you're able to make up time, we'll go much more depth into those attacks and things like. So you'll be working on attacks like SQL injection, XSS, cross-site request forgery, and SSRF attacks or this, server-side request forgery and broken access control. How do you bypass a session? How do you brute force a username and password, all those things will be covered in the part of the course.
I don't know if I missed that in the WhatsApp. What is the prerequisite to join the full class?
There's no prerequisite as much because we start from fresh. We do, if you have a little bit of understanding of Linux, that goes well because we do go from there, because we are talking about how to configure firewall and things. It is, you can start fairly fresh. You don't have to be a complete someone who is an expert in already pre-existing. You can start fairly fresh, but you IT knowledge, if you have certain IT knowledge, it will be good for you to follow up with that, what exactly is happening.
Okay, so what date is the first class?
Yeah, I think probably by end of this month, we are going to start the next batch.
Thank you.